What would happen if one of your top performers walked out the door tomorrow?
I quit!
You've offered a higher paycheck, tried everything to keep them, but they still quit.
You can't quit.
Yes, I can. I'm quitting, and I'm taking all of my pens, all of them.
This keep happening. Why are your best people leaving you? You see, studies have shown that 57% of employees leave their jobs due to bad managers. And nearly 80% of workers cite a harsh decline in productivity and general employee retention. Today, we will uncover why this happens and what can be done about it. As someone who spent decades mentoring leaders and using the DISC personality framework, I've seen patterns that most people miss. For instance, a manager with a dominant DISC profile often drives results, but can potentially alienate their team. And this is something you can't afford to happen. That's why in this video, we will explore 3 critical traits of bad managers that causes employees to quit based on the DISC model. So, if you're a manager looking to improve, or if you're an employee trying to understand why your workplace feels broken, this video will give you the clarity you need.
Here's what's going to happen. I am going to have to fix you, manage you on a more personal scale, a more micro form of management. Jim, what is that called?
Micromanagement.
Boom, yes.
The first trait that we're going to talk about today is micromanagement. Micromanagement is something most people have experienced. According to a recent Gallup survey, 70% of employees in large organizations feel micromanaged. Now, what is micromanagement all about? Now, the first thing to understand is that managers are generally not trying to be bad managers. In most cases, the reason why they're micromanaging is just because they don't know any better. So, how does this play out? Well, when a manager micromanages, they tend to not just give an employee a task, give them the ownership and let them figure it out. They tend to say, here's what I need, here's exactly how I want you to do it, and then they sit and look over your shoulder. One of the core things, and this is one of the most important things for managers to understand, is that everyone grows by being given ownership and responsibility. When you give someone a task and say, do this thing exactly this way, people do things, but we don't actually learn. Everyone, yourself included, are where you are today because at some point, someone trusted you. Someone gave you responsibility and ownership for something. And this is exactly how you want to manage your people. You want to give them ownership. Now, when you see the micromanagement happen, you often get very poor, lackluster results. You often get people who are not growing. You often get people who are not coming up with ideas on how to improve things. And as a manager, this is not what you want. So if you feel or if you see micromanagement happen in your team, you want to be addressing it by making sure that people are not just given a task and say, do this thing, but you're actually trying to give them a piece of responsibility. So you could say to Bob, hey Bob, I love the way you talk to people. I want you to be responsible for our customer service. Here are the core goals. So you want to describe the objectives of the task or of the responsibility that you're given to people and what it is you want them to achieve. Because when they don't know the objective, they don't necessarily know how to get there. And the objective is often the end goal. It means it's not necessarily the goal right in front of you. So in a customer service role, it's not just answer an email or answer all the emails, but it is giving them the objective of the end goal. And that could be, we want to answer all customers within a certain time frame. We want to make sure we have a customer happiness rating of a certain percentage. So you want to share these goals with the employees so that they can feel empowered and they can understand what is the end goal we're trying to reach here. Because when you explain to them the end goal, that enables them to think about how can we achieve this better? How are we more likely to get this result? And this is how you can end micromanagement.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't think you'll regret it. See what I did?
You're the master. There is one condition, Michael.
Yes.
You have to fire the salesman that treated me so terribly.
Don't do it, Michael.
The second trait is dealing with poor performers. Now, this can often happen for most personality types, probably with the exception of dominant people. Why is it critically important to deal with poor performers? So what happens in many businesses is that everyone is busy. You might have someone who is not performing well, and because of that, you're having conversation with them. However, they're not leading anywhere. The feedback is either not being direct enough for them to understand the seriousness of their lack of performance, over time is not being addressed, and if eventually they're not being let go from the company. And what this does is probably one of the most damaging things to businesses. Because here's a secret. The best people want to be surrounded by great people. When they see someone within the team getting allowed to go ahead and not perform over longer periods of time, they don't want to be around. The best people don't want to be around people who are not pulling their weight. When you're lacking dealing with poor performers, what happens is that you significantly increase the likelihood of your best people leaving. Think about it. If you're in a team, you're doing exceptionally well, you have a colleague who's doing the same job, but doing a lot less performance on a regular basis. They're not putting in the effort, they don't have the right attitude, they're just not pulling their weight.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Here's what happens. You feel it's unfair. You might sometimes be doing a significant amount of more work than they are. Now, in most cases, you're paid relatively the same. Now, as a good performer, why would you want to be around people like that? You don't. Now, there's 3 types of personalities who struggle to deal with this in different ways, and I'll go through that. So the first one is the influential managers. So they're often very connected with their team. In a lot of cases, they don't necessarily deal so much with the numbers. They're more tied into the people. And if they're like, hey, you know, Bob is a great guy, and you're like, well, he hasn't performed for a year and a half. They often connection and the individual above the performance. So again, if you are an influential manager, you definitely want to deal with this, right? You definitely want to make sure that you look at your numbers, you give people straight feedback, and you let them know that, hey, if you're not going to be performing, we will need to find someone else who can. When it comes to steady people, they're often afraid of the conflict. And what happens is they think that in their head, they're giving feedback to the individual. But if you sit down with the individual and say, hey, do you know you're about to be fired? They'll look at you in shock, because typically steady people don't communicate straight enough and understandable enough to the staff member that, hey, if this doesn't improve, we need to let you go. And as a steady person, often they're wanting to be liked by everybody. They're uncomfortable with conflict, right? And the challenge with this is that sometimes, particularly in a managerial situation, you have to deal with this because you don't want your best people leaving because you're not dealing with it. The last people who struggle is typically the conscientious people. They will often, again, point out what's the issue, what's the challenge, what's happening. But again, they tend to not come across in a very assertive way. So a bit like the steady people, they're often not direct enough about the poor performance.
What is going on? What are you doing?
So one of the core ways for you to ensure not to lose your best people is make sure you address poor performance in your less good performing people. The third trait is not addressing bad behaviors. Great people want to be around good people, as I've just said in the previous point. And this is also the case with behavior. If they see other people bringing the team down, if they see other people contributing to lack of success, they want it to be addressed. It's very simple. Great people want to succeed. And if there's team members with bad behaviors that are not being addressed and that is not improving, that is not beneficial for the team. And great people don't want to be around that. So again, how do you address that? The number one thing is making sure that you pinpoint bad behaviors to the individuals doing it. Bad behaviors could be bad attitude, it could be negative thoughts or negatively addressing different situations. Negativity can be beneficial when it's helping get to a bigger point. But many people who have a very negative attitude don't understand how it impacts the people around them. And as a manager, one of the most important things for you is actually to communicate this. It's very easy to think that people know what they're doing, but in most cases they're not. We don't, as humans, see ourselves from the outside. We think our thoughts and things come out of our mouth, but we don't see how we're perceived by other people. And one of your core goals as a manager, one of your core roles as a manager, is to help people understand how they're being perceived. So if you're saying, hey Bob, when we are sitting in a meeting and you're sitting rolling your eyes when someone comes up with an idea, here's what happens.
I do. I understood that reference.
You made other team members think that you don't respect them. You make others think that you're better than they are in a negative way. And more than anything, you actually make people lose respect for you in doing that. So when you point out these specific behaviors, you can help people first and foremost become aware, second and foremost, help improve. So when you point out a bad behavior, if you see the person change and become better, you want to try highlighting. So if I have a follow-up meeting with Bob and I say, hey Bob, I really appreciate the way you behaved in the team meeting. The way you supported Mona was very helpful. And it made people think that you're really trying to help the team do better. Keep up the good work, right? So you want to give them feedback and make sure they understand how to contribute the most.
Hey guys, let's just all admit it, okay? Dwight's better than us. He had the guts to stop sitting, and he's never, ever gonna go back on it, right?
That's right, Jim.
If you're interested in leveling up your management skills, check out my online course where I break down the processes and the mindsets that you need to possess to become an exceptionally good manager. As I say, this is the 80-20 or maybe even the 90-10 of great leadership. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who could benefit from it. See you in the next video.